You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am Jacob Valk, and the big news is the NBA coming back. They have a plan. I really don't want to talk about it, though, because I talked about it last week. I talked about their 22-team plan. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's wrong. I mean, you're stretching out the season too long. The NBA Finals, the latest date for the NBA Finals to end is October 12th. Think about that. On a normal NBA calendar, that's 2 weeks before opening day. And the play-in tournament that they're having for the 8 seeds are ridiculous. Single elimination, then double elimination. It's almost as confusing as how the NHL is doing their lottery. I mean, look, I know there are no easy solutions for this, and it's a good job by Commissioner Silver, the Board of Governors, and the Players Association to get together and work something out. But this is just way more confusing than it needs to be. I'd have stuck with the 8 teams that were in the playoffs for each conference, have shortened playoffs, and let's determine a champion that way. This idea that there was a bubble in the NBA just isn't true. I don't like this. I had said it last week. I really don't want to go too in-depth on it because I talked about it last week. So, on to another sad death in the world of sports, and that is Johnny Majors, one of the best college football coaches of the mid-70s into the early 90s. He started his head coaching career at Iowa State and didn't have a great run there. It took him a while to get going. He didn't finish with more than 5 wins his first 3 seasons there, but then in 71, Iowa State made their first ever bowl game. They went 8-4, but they lost to LSU in the Sun Bowl 33-15. After that, Iowa State was predicted by some to be a really good team, a sleeper team that could contend for a national title, and the Cyclones got off to a really good start that year. They started out 5-1, their one loss coming at Colorado, the 13th ranked team in the nation. But after that, they lost 5 of their last 6 games. The one game they didn't lose was a tie against 3rd-ranked Nebraska. They ended up in the Liberty Bowl and lost that to Georgia Tech in a close game, 31-30. But not a good end to what started out as a promising season. But it worked out for Majors because he then went to the University of Pittsburgh. And that's where he really got on the map. With Tony Dorsett leading the way Pitt went 6-5-1. They made it to the Fiesta Bowl, but got destroyed 28-7 by ASU. But one thing that's worth noting is that was the first bowl game that Pittsburgh had played in since 1956. It took them 17 years to get back into a bowl game. Majors got them back there in his first year. He inherited a 1-10 team and whipped that team into shape. They went 6-5-1. After that, Pittsburgh went 7-4. I don't know how they didn't play in a bowl game that year. And I know you can hear the gardeners outside my house now. I apologize about that. Nothing against them, they're just doing their job. It's just kind of annoying that I have that in the background. In 75, Pittsburgh got back in a bowl game as they went 8-4 and played Kansas in the Sun Bowl. It was there that Majors won his first ever bowl game by beating the Jayhawks 33-19. Tony Dorsett, again, an amazing year, rushed for over 1,600 yards and 13 touchdowns. In 76, Majors, Dorsett, and Pittsburgh had their best season. They went undefeated and went on to face Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. They would destroy the Bulldogs 27-3. Matt Cavanaugh, former Jets quarterbacks coach, was MVP. In that season, Dorsett rushed for over 2,100 yards and 22 touchdowns en route to being the second overall pick in the 77 draft by the Cowboys. The first overall pick was made by the Buccaneers, and they took Ricky Bell, one of the biggest busts in NFL history. You really have to wonder what John McKay was smoking when he picked Bell over Dorsett. After the undefeated season, Majors got some attention from his alma mater, Tennessee. Obviously, there's a huge appeal to going back to where you went to school and turning that team around. Bill Battle was a good coach for him, but in his last few years there, the Volunteers had fallen off. Majors was coming off a national championship, an undefeated season. He's a local kid, so obviously Tennessee is going to go after him, and Majors made the jump. It took him a while to get going at Tennessee, but in his third year, the Volunteers went 7-5, and they ended up facing Purdue in the Blue Bonnet Bowl, losing to them 27-22. It took Tennessee a year to get back in a bowl game, but in 81 they went 8-4 and beat Wisconsin in the last ever Garden State Bowl 28-21. That started a great streak for the Volunteers. They made it to 7 straight bowl games and 10 bowl games in 11 years. In 82, they disappointed, going 6-5-1 and losing to Iowa in the Peach Bowl 28-22. But then they rebounded in 83 by going 9-3, anchored by the great Reggie White, who made his only All-American team that year. And they ended up in the Citrus Bowl, beating Maryland 30-23. In 84, they went 7-4-1, They ended up losing to Maryland in the Sun Bowl, 28-27. Kind of interesting how that worked. A rematch in a bowl game, but a different bowl game. It's kind of interesting. I just realized that. I like that. In 85, anchored by All-American wide receiver Tim McGee, Tennessee went 9-1-2, and they ended up facing Miami in the Sugar Bowl, beating the U 35-7. In 86, they sort of kind of disappointed. They were ranked 10th in the AP preseason poll, but they ended up only going 7-5. But they did win the Liberty Bowl by beating Minnesota 21-14. You're sensing a pattern with majors. One good year, one not as good year. One good year, one not as good year. That was majors. But his bad years were still good. That's pretty impressive. In 87, Majors had his second best season at Tennessee. I'll get to his best season in a little bit. Anchored by Reggie Cobb, the Volunteers went 10-1 and beat Indiana in the Peach Bowl 27-22. Cobb had a great year that year, rushing for just under 1,200 yards and 17 touchdowns. In 88, they had a bad year, going 5-6, but then in 89, Majors had his best year with the Volunteers. They went 11-1 and beat Arkansas in the Cotton Bowl 31-27. That was Majors' second SEC conference title. His first one came in 1985. He would repeat as SEC champ by going 9-2 and narrowly beating Virginia in the Sugar Bowl 23-22. And let me tell you, that team had a great offense. Andy Kelly was a good quarterback. Tony Thompson was a good running back. Carl Pickens was a good wide receiver. Very good team, the 90 Volunteers. In 91, Tennessee went 9-3, but they ended up losing in the Fiesta Bowl 42-17 to Penn State. In 92, things really went south for Majors. He needed heart surgery before the season. Philip Fulmer, an assistant for Majors, took over the Volunteers. They went 3-0. Majors came back, went 2-3, and then Majors was forced to resign because of pressure by Fulmer, the Tennessee Athletics Board, the AD, the university president. I mean, you can't withstand that pressure. So that's how Philip Fulmer got his start, by pushing Johnny Majors out. I mean, I guess all's fair in love and war. Nothing against Fulmer. He's a Hall of Famer, great coach for Tennessee, but that's just not the right way to do it. I understand that Majors ticked some people off because he went on a publicity tour before the season. He was making himself out to be bigger than the team. That ruffled some feathers, but still, though, you don't do that. That's just wrong. Majors went back to Pittsburgh, but really, really disappointed there. They finished with 12 total wins in his last 4 years there. But here's an interesting fact about Majors. Lee Majors, the $6 million man, got his stage name from Johnny Majors. They were friends. Lee, like Johnny's last name, Lee Majors' real name is Harvey Lee Yeary. I could see why he'd want to change it, so he went by Lee Majors. Very, very good decision. Johnny Majors was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in 1987. Yes, while he was still coaching, he deserved it very much. May he rest in peace. Alright, it's time to do 2/3 of the trifecta. I'm not going to do this day in sports history. I don't think it's necessary. So, it's time to recap the Kansas City Chiefs 2020 NFL Draft Class. I really wish that Nick could be here for this, but he's in Boston with his girlfriend, Lucky Duck. I'm not a big fan of what the Chiefs did in the draft. Nothing against the players they picked, but there were just better uses of those picks available. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was the 4th best running back in this draft, behind DeAndre Swift, J.K. Dobbins, and Jonathan Taylor. Edwards-Helaire is shorter than me. He's 5'7". I understand that that's not the be-all, end-all. And I'm not even begrudging the Chiefs for taking a running back in the first round. 32nd overall, you're a great team. You have that luxury. And Edwards-Helaire is a jack of all trades. Great vision, really powerful lower body, great in the passing game. Andy Reid said that he reminds him of Brian Westbrook, and I see it. The thing is, there were better running backs available. Now, I think Edwards-Helaire is going to do great in Kansas City. Pick him in your dynasty leagues, but there were better running backs available. That's my only issue. Willie Gay was a terrible, terrible pick at the end of the second round. This is a guy who I had a 5th round grade on. And ESPN agreed with me. They had him as the 163rd best prospect in this draft. The Chiefs took him 100 picks higher than his big board ranking, according to ESPN. He missed 8 games last year because of something with a tutor. I'm not sure exactly what happened. But still, he missed 8 games. He missed time. I just didn't see enough from him last year to rank him any higher than a 5th rounder. He's not the smartest player in the world. He takes bad angles. He doesn't have good instincts. I mean, he has a good frame. And if he had played every game last year at Mississippi State, his stock probably would have climbed, but I just didn't see enough from him to rank him any higher than a 5th rounder. This pick can work out, but I'm not confident. Lucas Niang was a great pick, the first pick by the Chiefs that I absolutely loved. They needed to reinforce the offensive line with Stefan Wisniewski going to the Steelers. Niang played really well at TCU. He jumped off the tape. Really good frame. Great in pass blocking. Great in run blocking. The thing is, he needs to keep his weight in check. He clocked in at 315 pounds at the combine, and that wasn't all muscle. If he adds muscle, I don't have a problem with it, but some of that was fat. That's not good. He's got to keep his weight in check, but I think he can. There are some people that have durability concerns with him. I really don't. They're there in the back of my mind, but not a lot. I really, really like Lucas Niang. L'Jarius Sneed sounds like something out of a Key and Peele skit. I mean, where's Hingle McCringleberry when you need him? In all seriousness, Snead does have good ball skills, great frame, jumped off the tape at Louisiana Tech. The thing is, where are you going to play him? I've seen some people put him at corner because of his ball skills, but he doesn't have good cover skills. Are you going to put him at free safety? You can. He has the speed for it. But he's not the smartest player in the world. And he's not the strongest player in the world. So you don't want to put him at strong safety. I had a late 5th, early 6th round grade on Snead. I didn't like the pick. I see him more as a free safety in the next level. The Chiefs really didn't need another safety. They have the Honey Badger, they have Juan Thornhill, they have Daniel Sorensen. I wasn't crazy about that pick. Mike Dana was an undraftable prospect to me. He's a defensive end who's just over 250 pounds. He's going to get bullied on the line. I mean, I just don't see him contributing. He played really well at Central Michigan, but then he transferred over to Michigan and didn't do as well. You know why? The competition in the Big Ten was a lot more fierce. He got bullied too much. Terrible against the run. Bad in pass rush. I just don't see it with this kid. I don't see how he's going to contribute in the NFL. Thacarius Keys, or Bo Peep Keys, was worth the pick in the 7th round. I actually had a 6th round grade on him. He has a fantastic frame, freakish arms, freakish hands, plays the game the right way. The thing is, he's not the smartest player in the world. He tends to get burned a lot, but I think that's something that can be taught. I really liked Keys. Again, it's a Key and Peele type name, so shout out to him. I had an early 6th round grade on him. You could have even talked me into late 5th. He was right on that borderline to me. I think Keys has a future in this league. All in all, it's really hard for me to like what the Chiefs did. Edwards-Helaire is going to be a really good player for him, but there were better running backs available. Lucas Niang is going to be a stud for him. And Bo Peep Keys has the talent to succeed. But I hated the Willie Gay pick. I hated the Snead pick. I hated the Dana pick. It's hard for me to give this draft anything more than a C. And even then, that's just because they have Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt because they won the Super Bowl last year. Believe me, I almost gave them a C-, but a C is very fair. Alright, it's time for another Mount Rushmore. We're on the Arizona Coyotes now, and I have actually been to Arizona to see a couple hockey games there. Let me tell you, there were more fans of the Western Canada teams that were there than there were Coyotes fans. Hockey just doesn't work in the desert. As you may know, the Coyotes were previously the Winnipeg Jets. The current iteration of the Jets moved from Atlanta. So I'm going to incorporate some original Winnipeg Jets into this Mount Rushmore. The correct Mount Rushmore is Shane Doan, Dale Hawerchuk, Thomas Steen, and Keith Tkachuk. Shane Doan was a lifetime Coyote, never won a Stanley Cup, but he definitely deserved it. Perennially underrated. Took him forever to get a hat trick. I really liked watching him play live. Played the game the right way. And I can certainly make the argument for him to go into the Hall of Fame. Dale Hawerchuk is probably the best Winnipeg Jet of all time. He had 6 100-point seasons in his first 7 years in the league. That is insane. Unfortunately for the Jets, he was traded to the Sabres in a blockbuster trade. The Jets had to do it because they were hemorrhaging money, but still, to trade Dale Hawerchuk, that's a tough pill to swallow. I feel for you, Jets fans, because my team had to trade Ziggy Palffy. Thomas Steen was a perennially underrated player for the Jets. Played the game the right way, great defensive forward. Could put the puck in the net when he had to. Finished with 817 points in 950 games. Not a great goal scorer. That isn't what I meant when I said he could put the puck in the net. What I meant was he was a point getter. He's a guy who made his teammates look a lot better. And Keith Tkachuk was a really fun player to watch. Physical player, great two-way player. He actually came over in the Hawerchuk deal as a first-round pick. So, take some solace in that, Jets fans. You traded Dale Hawerchuk, but you got Keith Tkachuk. I know it's not what you really want to hear, but it's true. I really liked watching Tkachuk play. I like watching his sons play. Brady and Matthew have very, very bright futures in this league. We may be talking about a Tkachuk family dynasty, depending on what Brady and Matthew do with their kids, but it will have been started by a great two-way player in Keith Tkachuk. Tomorrow, you're definitely going to get the trifecta. I don't see any big news breaking. We have hockey coming back. We have basketball coming back. Barring a miracle, baseball isn't going to come back in the next 24 hours. No deaths, though. Come on, let's cool it with the deaths. Again, I don't think this day in sports history is necessary. I really don't like doing it when I talk about a death, but I've been doing it because there hasn't been a lot to talk about, but I focused a little bit on the NBA today, so I feel like that cancels it out. Until tomorrow, I am Jacob Valk saying that once a pitcher loses his fastball, he has to go to the garbage.